I'm now recording, all right?
Okay, well, I guess I'll introduce myself. I'm Pistol Pete. I am the second in charge of Perseus, uh, and I've been Perseus since for about a year now.
All right, and how long have you been with the server?
I have been with the server since February of 2013.
Okay, would you mind at all about disclosing your Perseus number?
Yeah, I'm 007.
Okay, so you're 007. Wow, you got lucky on that one.
Yeah, I didn't ask for it. It was just one of those random number things.
Oh, because I know everyone that's applied has always picked that number, 007, 047, and then the third one is the one that they actually came up with themselves every time.
Yeah, it's generally the case. See, I didn't. When I asked for when we talked about the commander numbers, we went through the list, and it's been like 1 through 11. So that was one of the actually ones that hadn't been taken yet.
Question, is there a number 000?
Off the top of my head, looking at the whitelist, we don't have a 000.
I don't believe there's ever been.
Yeah, there shouldn't be because 001 is where it starts.
Okay, so a couple of questions. We'll do basic, easy stuff first. How many people are actually involved in Perseus?
Involved in Perseus, we have a lot of people who are on the roster, but they're inactive currently, and we've actually commented them out of the whitelist until a later point in time. Then they actually have to come and talk to us and do an interview. So, for all intents and purposes, they're not actively Perseus right now.
Okay.
But looking at my spreadsheet, let me count it up real quick. We have 26 people who are actively involved with Perseus.
Okay. 26 people. That's quite a few, considering we normally only have, what, 22 on the server right now?
Yep.
Alright, this question has been asked and will always be asked, and will always be a statement of fact regardless of its truth. Everyone keeps telling me and everyone else that is not a member of Perseus that your weapons are completely overpowered. And at once this was kinda true when I was here. The way I had chosen to fight them was either with space lube or bombs. That's become easier now since the updates, which give traders access to bombs, but until then, you either had to make them, make space lube, or set some very, very elaborate traps for them.
And yeah, that was the case for a long time. But we've actually gone back and we've looked at what the gameplay balance, and it is unfair to have some one force that is very adept at teamwork. And I'm going to throw this out there. The first thing that we're better than everybody else at is actually acting as a team because we play together all the time. We know each other.
Right, that'd be a question I was saving for later.
Okay.
Um,
And
but to interrupt you, and I'm sorry, but
oh, sure.
I actually preferred it when it was if there's a Perseus commander and 3 enforcers on, you better go fucking stealth. It forced your hand that you could not go murder boner because you knew they would come for you, and you knew that you would lose unless you had this planned very well. And I really liked that about it. It let me, um, it gave, I left pretty much because I couldn't lose. Now this is not true anymore. I'm very, very rusty, but I left because I could not lose. And Perseus was something that very much alleviated that. So when you balance the game, do you think that you balanced it too much to get away from what Perseus's original intention was, or towards what its original intention was?
Well, the original intent of Perseus was to counter rampant Xeno rounds because it had just been gotten to a point where Xenos were overrunning the station every few rounds, so they were created with that regard. And currently, how we play Perseus is that it's a life-saving organization. We try to preserve all the life on the station, and we try to preserve, if at all possible, we try to take and capture any antags.
Oh, I'm just gonna make sure.
However, getting back to it, we've actually moved towards. I think that it's actually pretty. It's pretty much back to taking and actually saving lives again, versus where we could be a lot more lethal in certain aspects. some things have to do with the we updated our SOP. We rebalanced the EP90 to be a little weaker for the stun times. It just requires us to be on our A game to make sure that we're good. And generally, it's not. There hasn't been a huge noticeable difference.
Hmm. Um, I'm looking. Do you act upon space law? Like I got the forums open with your SOP involved. Um. Oh, excuse me. Oh. So I'm sitting here looking at the levels of force. Uh, do you follow the same, basically, you can summarily execute as space law does, or would you say that it's vastly different?
We wrote the SOP. We actually did that rewrite, and we brought it more in line with space law. What it used to be is technicalities would abound, where technically, if somebody punched you, you could go ahead and arrest them, bring them aboard the Mycenae, and you would basically bring somebody out of a round for doing a small thing.
Well, which I mean, there's a general rule when elite Black Ops units go someplace of don't walk up and punch them in the face. That won't end well.
But I mean, you have to remember we're a light role play server as everything goes.
My,
So I mean, people are going to do stupid crap, and it was we just rebalanced it to bring it more in line with space law. For instance, if the guy's shooting at you with a stun gun or a taser or e-gunner and you're trying to stun you and get you down, we are still authorized lethals for that because if you get knocked down to the ground, just like in space law, states a lethal force is authorized. We can go ahead and take that lethal force to them,
right.
which is the 5.7. Really, that's the only lethal weapon other than
The stun
using.
knife.
Yeah,
At which point, when you have to like handcuff them for that.
yeah, and
But
if you switch your stun knife to lethal, you're probably dealing with a Borg or trying to break a window.
question: how much damage does a stun knife actually do compared to, say, I think the harm baton currently does 10 brute damage.
Uh, Let me look that up. Off the top of my head, and I'll be completely honest. I'm not a coder person, so I'm trying to decipher this.
You're more of the robustness.
Yeah, it's. I'm going to be honest. It's a fairly robust thing. It will 3 or 4 hits. It'll put somebody into crit and kill them.
So it would do what, 25 damage?
I think if I'm looking at it correctly, it should be 17.
17. The spear and I think a broken bottle does more than that.
Yeah, I mean it will. Don't quote me on that. I'll apologize because I'm like I said, I'm not a code guy and I'm trying to decipher this. It's all all jumbled stuff to
I
me.
mean, it's not like we can go on the forums and look this up that someone who is a code guy has put on because Perseus doesn't have a forum.
Well, it's all open source, so if you actually wanted to look it all up, you can look it up.
Yeah, I'm not a code guy either, so you're asking
Yeah.
the wrong guy. You can go look it up, thanks,
Somebody
that's real
else is
helpful.
gonna have to look that up. I actually had to ask one of the admins to pull that for me, and I'm still baffled by it.
Alright.
You figure it'd be easy. It says damage this, and then there's something force equals 17. I don't know. Anyways,
Um, what challenges has running this organization and its actual purpose given to the community?
what challenges has it given to the community?
Yes.
Well, honestly, it's of contentious points to some of the other servers that we have a whitelisted security team because a lot of the folks who come from other servers they want ERT, and that's a randomized team that can be super effective if it's filled with robust folks, or it can be the least effective thing you'll ever see.
Right.
I mean, it's just like an antag role. If you for nuke ops, if you've got great people on the nuke ops, you can do your job with 1 or 2 people. Now, if you with ERT and you have a bad role and you're trying to save the station and some guy just won't call the shuttle, I mean, you run the risk of it.
Right. Which is, to be fair, a good point. There has been some talk when I was last here about Perseus expanding into engineering thing to because or something along that sort if the station was blown up because they could do more than just be security professionals. What's your view on that?
Now that's a tricky thing, and I honestly, I'm in favor of a somewhat whitelisted organization. However, it just gets tricky because you keep throwing this extra stuff on a one whitelisted folks and people because the way we base our recruitment is one way, and we don't base it off of how good you are at engineering. For instance,
Right.
we have our own little setup. Say, hey, or we look at candidates. We base them off of their interactions with other players, how they play, how they would represent us, and as for Perseus in its current state, we're very focused on being good security.
Right, and I think that's a fair thing to make.
But that being said, I would be in favor if there was any sort of an emergency engineer team that might be called in like an ERT.
However, I would assume that it's safe to say, and I'm pretty sure this is fact, that almost all, if not every single person in Perseus is an extremely experienced and veteran player that does no engineering.
Yes and no. A lot of them are very very experienced, but they all have their good points. I'll be honest. With some of the newer guys we have, they're not the best with engineering, and that's actually something I've told them that they need to improve in case it's something we need to deal with while we're playing in a round.
Right. Engineering and security, in my opinion, have always gone hand in hand because you can't always just see your way into a boarded up room or like.
Yeah, and that's something that we've worked on. Like the hacking skills for engineering they're extremely important.
Oh God, yes. I mean, I can get a door open in 5 seconds flat.
I'll be honest, you're a little bit better than me. I have to look it up a little bit and mess around with a few things, but I generally pulse the primary wire and just crowbar it.
Mm.
Now, you probably hit the ID and then the door open.
Actually, I cut every wire except for the bolt door wire.
Oh, that'll work too.
Yep, crowbar it open. You ain't got to worry about it again.
Yeah, I was gonna say you ghetto hack hard.
Oh yeah, but speed.
Yeah, hey, if it works for you, it works for you. For me, I try to when I do stuff, I like to make sure I can get back through it quicker and lock it behind me.
Um, what challenges has the actual community, the non-Perseus, and even to some extent the administration team posed to your organization?
Well, how we fit in with the balance of the game, because if you look at SS13 on a lot of other servers, and you've got your regular players and your antags. And I was actually just having this discussion with some of our folks in our Perseus chat, and so then you throw in a completely different organization that's whitelisted, and you basically, as we sit right now, we're not designed as the anti-antagonist, but that's a role that we fulfill a lot of times. And because we come on board the station whenever it's an emergency.
Right.
That's just what it is.
It never says anything about being an emergency. Um, it only says it about if a head of staff has requested it, or the AI, or use your own judgment.
Okay, and yeah, then that's one of the things. But we will refuse missions based. Look, say if the head of staff requests us to guard the bathrooms, we're not going to board to guard the bathrooms. It has to be something that they generally can't handle.
Right.
So let's say you have your old crazy bomber, Snow, from a while ago, decided that he wants to kill Perseus, and he starts blowing up stations, and he set a bomb by our shuttle that we dock with. That would be, that would be the kind of people we would board to deal with.
However, the thing about that strategy is you can't have Perseus know that you did that.
Oh yeah, no, yeah, definitely not.
Um,
I used to actually try to kill Perseus before I became Perseus. It was a fun game for me.
yeah, like one Perseus is pretty helpless. You know exactly who they are, exactly what they're there to do, exactly where their allegiance lies. There's no question as to whether or not they see you. They're going to start shooting if they're looking for you. And if you've done something, they're looking for you. You want to kill them as fast as possible. Also, bear traps worked very well against you guys.
Yeah, there's a lot of little things that you can do against us. I mean, to be honest, unless we've got some drugs in the system, we're just as susceptible to stuns
Yeah.
as any other.
You.
And new cops with the CR, their actual ballistic weapons will knock the shit out of us.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Many of enforcers have fallen to a new cops. So the
That
balance is certainly an issue that has always been worked on. But I always thought that they did bring balance to the game, letting the newer players have someone that was always on their side, always wanted to help them, that and that would always actively try to fight any antagonists. I mean, that's not what you're designed to do, but it's
Yeah, no, and it's great. And, that was something Zombie had mentioned pretty recently that it's pretty remarkable that we consistently can be relied upon to actually go out and help out.
now. I remember a time shortly around the time, right around the time I left, I believe, when uh, unless there were xenomorphs or whatever, you couldn't get Perseus to board for the life of you. It's like, come on board. This guy has looted the armory and has killed 2 officers. We need assistance. And they would either respond, we can't board for that, or we don't understand the mission. And I used to play the HOS a lot. And to me, it would be like, well, then what the hell's the point of you?
Yeah, no, and I completely agree. I remember that I used to play. I don't remember what time you left, but I was playing HOS pretty heavily up until I was actually recruited, and I was running into the same issues.
It's like, hey, this guy looted the armory. We need your help. Well, we don't track down suspects. Well, what? When I find him, you'll come and help me in 15 minutes?
Yeah, or when he kills my entire staff. Yeah, and that was an issue in the past it's actually been put aside. We've tried to steer our newer enforcers and our old enforcers into not an aggressive pattern, but when a valid mission comes up and is actually requested, we will go ahead and take care of it as necessary as it is. Especially like, let's say somebody raids the armory and they have all the e-guns, and they're going to go kill everyone. Somebody said request help, and we do our best to track them down. We'll work with the AI. We'll work with the security forces on board. It just works out really well.
Right. Today, actually, I had a round as the HOS that Perseus was on. This was the very first one I've seen them on since I came back. They had informed, one of your enforcers had informed me that a cargo tech had stolen the HOP locker. Now, I know there's an e-gun in it, and he said, well, they haven't, and I asked him to board because I did not have any backup. There was no one else in security that I even knew existed. I think the captain was there, but he was incompetent, and the warden was PDA messaging me bizarre things about how he's going to take over security. I actually had to help that because I'm like, what's he talking about? I don't know what's going on. And I end up getting into this scenario where I'm asking him to board. He said they're not armed and dangerous. I'm like, well, they could be.
And you're right, but at the end of the day, we have to reserve. Like, I wasn't there, and I wasn't seeing what they're seeing, so I have to support their actions basically because
it's your job to do to support Perseus, whether you know.
No, I mean, we as our our organization basically says, it's up to the enforcer's discretion. We can't put set criteria because if we say you always have to board in this situation, you cannot not board in this. Because it's just not, it won't work out to give them the flexibility to deal with actual different situations.
Right.
Now, I would be a little bit more interested in hearing that and talking to whatever enforcers that were there so I can counsel them and let them know that, hey, indeed, you can board for that.
Right. So so I suppose this would go into a different, because one right now I'm not going to tell you the thing while I'm recording, because I just find that in bad taste. But using Perseus as backup for security.
Okay.
Let's say I've got a traitor in this room and I've only got one other officer who's competent and actually willing to go there. Can I call upon security or Perseus to come and help me? Because any good sec officer knows everyone else on your team is always incompetent.
Unfortunately,
That's not entirely true, but for the sake of argument, it is completely.
yeah. Yeah, I gotcha.
Two good,
And let's say you might have a great round, and you'll have like one of the admins playing security with you, and you generally know that they're good.
or just a name that you can recognize and say, "Oh, thank God, I can rely upon this guy."
Yeah,
But God help us if they're a
that
traitor.
was Mandingo Steel for me. But go ahead.
So I actually remember that guy. Um, so using Perseus as backup or to help security because they are not always able to deal with it. Simply because, well, let's say I'm the HOS. Well, okay, I may have four other staff members, but I'm the only one here that's of any amount of competence, and I'm fighting against a player whose name Saint Vicious. Let's say it's Saint Vicious. He's very robust, but and I know if he's a traitor, I know hell's gonna break loose, or I know he's done A, B, and C. I know I'm not gonna be able to go in there and just get him by myself. I'm robust. I'm not that robust, kind of thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you need backup in case you get stunned. I understand.
Right.
So here's the basic general rule on it is Perseus will board, or they will choose to board, or they will not choose to board. It's going to be on them, that individual enforcer or the commander or the sergeant that has says, hey, we're going to go and board based off of this.
Right.
But the general rule of thumb goes something like this. If you ask us to patrol hallways, we're not going to do that unless there is an active threat to the station. If you ask us for help in detaining someone, we generally board for that.
All right. Um.
And they
Well.
just have to be proved to be a threat. And that's the thing is like, hey, this guy's got a D gun, and I know he's assaulted people. I don't have enough security or forces to do this. Can you help me out? And that's the way it should be phrased. And then say, we actually have on the bridge. There's a Perseus console that or the communications console, and you can set Perseus missions. And that way, at the end of the round, you can actually track to see whether we detain someone or not, or you can do it completely unofficial and just ask it over comms.
Right. Well, because a lot of times, the HOS, he's not at the bridge a lot. He's always up in security. Because when I play the HOS, I don't like to physically go and arrest somebody. That seems like something uh, that
Honestly, something your security forces, your officers should do.
Yeah, that doesn't seem like what I should be doing. And I will if I have to come out of my office, pretty much, or come out of the brig, I'm already pissed. So I view it at this: by the time you drag me out of my office, I'm already pissed. But when it comes to the Perseus organization, everything within it, is it difficult to manage and keep the men restrained?
To keep the enforcers restrained?
Commanders, enforcers, whatever.
You mean restrained from boarding all the time?
Restrained from using too much lethal force, restrained from boarding all the time. Just
The thing I actually found out that is most of our guys don't want to use lethal force. Um, we had some more aggressive folks a couple of years ago when when I first joined and when I was playing as just a regular player,
right.
and it's most of the guys don't want to have to kill that person and take them out of the round, and that's because they've all been players. Everybody in Perseus has been detained by Perseus at one point or time or another, and they know how much it sucks to just get killed and shot down in the street by rogue shit curious.
Wow, it.
So it's actually not difficult to restrain them. Sometimes I have to say, hey, go ahead and blow that board, or destroy the board. Stop flashing it. Don't secure it. Just destroy it.
Yeah, it's like with changeling, Borgs. I don't know if we have vampires on the server. I don't think we do.
We don't at the moment. I think we had some coding for werewolves at some point for Halloween, but there were some issues.
Okay, but things of that nature, you don't try and take. You blasting charge them.
We will try to make an effort.
I
It's gotten a lot safer since we've gone to new source to take changelings.
I haven't been a changeling now lately, so I couldn't tell you.
There's no paralysis sting anymore.
Oh, really? Wow.
Yeah,
That
and you don't automatically have enough to regenerate. There's a lot. It's a lot different. So
I don't know how I feel about that, but
I'm not a huge fan of it myself. I thought that the paralysis sting, and you don't have to absorb everything, everybody. You just have to sample DNA now.
that is really stupid.
Yeah, it takes away from the murder boner changelings like they used to be.
Yeah, but that was kind of their point.
Yeah, no, it's nothing is spookier than when you start with like full 25 people and you just start noticing the hallways start clearing out.
Yeah, it's like I remember being on like 50-person servers, and what really makes slings effective is the hive mind, but and then the stings, and then the regenerate. I remember a 50-man server, I'd come on as an assistant or something at like 30 minutes into the round, say hello, hello, comms aren't down, hello, no one's on board, where is everybody? Everything's empty, there's no blood, and you'd go, oh yeah, it's a changeling round. There's no one brain dead in arrivals. It's a changeling round.
Yeah, and so, but it's still the thing. If it's lethal and it's showing the intent that it's going to break out or something, or go out and harm more people, if we have to, we'll destroy it.
Right.
Especially with changelings.
Right. Borgs, if you can, if the AI's rogue, blow the Borgs. Don't lock them down.
Yeah.
Blow them.
Yeah, no, and that's we've dealt with mouth AIs, and the rounds roll different since we've gone to new source as well. So you need a decent server population to actually get good rounds, other than trader.
Oh yeah, that's very frustrating.
Because it's either trader or extended if you're not at 15, and then you can get up to I think it's trader changeling, and I think Nuke Ops is at 20 if I remember correctly, but don't quote me on that.
Okay. The activity of Perseus, because as my YouTube channel will show, they are not now, and as personal experience has shown, have ever been very active. Like, I can't be relied upon round to round to round to expect at least one enforcer on.
Well, one of the things we always try to leave, we try to have two enforcers on whenever we have an enforcer on. That just makes it easier for them to board. One of the things we try to do when we board is always have reliable backup. And as you pointed out earlier, security is not always the most reliable of individuals. I've actually, as a Perseus and enforcer back in the day, I've boarded with the assistance of an assistant. I actually had to go down that low.
With the assistant of an assistant.
Yeah, it was assistance. An assistant was my backup because he'd shown himself to. I had watched him over the cameras. He'd shown himself to be helpful. He'd been loyalty implanted, everything. So at that point, I determined he was good enough for my backup.
Right.
It's all subjective on what good enough backup is.
Well, sometimes any backup's good enough backup.
Yeah, especially when you need to get in there and call the shuttle, or you need to get in there and protect the HOS from being the last person killed in a round.
Right. Taking people into protective custody on the Mycena.
We don't generally take people into protective custody on the Mycene. It's just, if you're there, you're a prisoner.
Okay. I once had a round, a very, very long time ago, where there were 2 enforcers on. No commander, and that's another point I'll get to later. And it was a wizard round, and there was a low pop round. It was me, the captain, I think it was an old veteran player, and one other and the warden. And we had called Perseus on the station to deal with a wizard. That's something that Perseus does, I assume. Wizards.
We'll respond to him.
Yeah. Um, my exact orders were stay with me, guys. Stick with us. I think I also had a couple of assistants with me, and like an assistant and the chef that I had like forced into security to say, listen, you're gonna come help me kill this wizard, and you're gonna do it whether you like it or not. They had gone along with it because I got a free laser gun out of it.
Sure. Everybody likes shiny things.
And I had ordered them to stay with me. Um, this was everyone that was on round, like me, the warden, the captain, and like the assistant and the chef. That was it. And then the two Perseus enforcers, I had ordered them both to stay with me because I knew they didn't have lethal weapons. And I had figured that the DPS from, you know, what, 5 people with lethals and 2 people with stuns and things like that would be able to knock a wizard out. And I had ordered them to stick with me. They boarded the station, they completely ignored my orders, ran off into EVA, where the wizard was able to magic missile and kill them both. Then, and they had called for help, we had ran in shortly after, after one of them was dead and the other one was in the process of being killed, and began to lethal him. But we all ended up dying except for the wizard. Now, my point to this was, it says security can't be trusted at backup. Should Perseus ever try and go off and do anything alone, if the HOS specifically orders them to stay with him?
Yes and no. It's all, like I said before. It's a lot of it's subjective based off of the enforcer's interpretation of the situation. Now they should, as the updated SOP states, you know, you should make every attempt to go ahead and actually follow the orders of the crew. However, you know, and you're not going to like this answer, but if they see something that needs to get taken care of, and they are going to go take care of it.
Well, I mean, in the scenario I gave you, should they have stayed with the entire crew?
Tactically, yes, because just like a changeling, the greatest power of a wizard is cornering people by themselves and knocking them out.
Right. I don't think a full Perseus team is enough of a match for a wizard, though, especially a good one.
Well, yeah, if it's a good wizard, that'll be a hell of a fight. It'll be a lot of flashbangs and AoEs, and there will be a 5-7, or actually, it'll probably be 3-5-7 shooting that wizard, because we do have lethals that will break out for emergencies. There's one available at all times.
I was gonna get to the questions about the lethals in the special place that most people can't get. There is, in that round though, would you have agreed with me that they should have stuck with me?
Yeah, no, and that's not only because of what you requested them to do. That was the mission, is to take out the wizard, and the best way of taking out the wizard would probably be to stay with you. But tactically, like I said, staying with you is the best way of taking out the wizard.
Especially when there's, what, 4 or 5 of us?
Yeah, and like I said, a wizard, their best power is knocking somebody out from behind or knocking them out when they're isolated and just blowing them apart.
Right, I don't know what the new wizard things are, but before they could just run up to somebody, click E-Nate, that they'd be dead and run off.
Basically, yeah.
Yeah, and that's why they were so difficult, because they could teleport. But,
full disclosure, I've been exploded outside of the med bay by a wizard.
Oh, yeah.
A few times.
Oh, yeah, I don't care how robust you are. They're going to jump you. No good wizard knows. Every good wizard knows you don't fight more than one person at a time.
And if you do, you knock them all down and then smack them and then run.
Yep.
With the Inath, and yeah.
But I don't know how it is now, but that's when it was. Which brings
it should be about the same thing.
Which brings me to my next question. Are Perseus enforcers very glory hungry?
It depends on the individual person, just like it would be. And I know I'm giving vague answers, but it depends on the individual enforcer. A lot of them are aggressive. They want to go and help the crew. That's what they joined they joined Perseus originally for, is to help out, be part of a good team, and be able to make a difference on those murder rounds because they suck.
Right.
Now, if I'm going to take, I can think of my example right now. I have one guy I have to hold him back sometimes and say we're not going to board because that's not a valid mission to me. And then there's other guys I have to kind of push to get out just a bit. It's just it depends on the individual.
Yeah, I get that. You've got too many people to be able to have a, especially over the internet and with Space Station 13, you've got way too many people to be able to have a concise, list of things that you board for.
Yeah, and with the glory hungry thing, it was actually we're developing a little bit. It's not cliques or anything. We've developed squads within our for or excuse me our own organization. That for some reason was more of a tongue twister than it should have been.
Oh yeah.
And the what we've done is we've set it up so that we have a commander and one of our sergeants in charge of a few other Perseus, and each of the teams has different attitudes, which is good because you when you have the strengths and weaknesses of each squad.
Okay, I in my entire time playing this, I think I could count on one hand the number of times I've actually seen a commander on the server. So what does this mean for putting, Perseus lethal options behind someone who's never there?
And I'm gonna throw this out there. A lot of some of the commanders have issues with their time frame, and we've actually taken steps. For instance, I'm one of the most active commanders now, and you probably haven't seen me on the last couple weeks since you've been back. Basically, because I bought a few games on the Steam sale, and I've been enjoying them.
Okay, that's fine, but there are still enforcers who may encounter a situation like xenomorphs, rogueborgs, changelings, traitors.
And there's always an option for them. There's an emergency 5-7 located on my Mycenae, and they can always break the glass and grab it. They also always have the ability to stun and actually put a charge on anything that's too lethal for them to deal with a stun knife.
Right. So you have taken steps, but that's a team can be. I think it's three. It was three. Is it still three enforcers?
Three enforcers and one commander.
Right.
And one of the things that we've and this is why we haven't had as many people on. You've noticed this is our low server population as of late. We try not to put too much Perseus on if there's not like a server population to handle it. We'll actually try to increase the server population by playing as regular players.
All right. Fair enough.
And that's actually something I challenged our guys to do because if it's our server, it's our community. We need to make sure that it survives and we attract more players.
Right. Well, Perseus also shows up as a player in the registry, so.
Yeah, but if you got 10 people on the registry and 4 of them are Perseus,
Right.
what's
And one HOS.
you got an HOS, you got a captain, you got a chef, and 3 assistants.
It's like, well,
I wish we had an engineer, but apparently 4 people have to play Perseus right now.
Like, then I go and hack open the doors and engineering, set up the engine.
And then some stupid security guy who comes on late sees you in there and he arrests you.
Yep. That's
Yeah,
not
and
the way
that's
it
the
goes.
way it goes. And then those are the kind of rounds that I get on and play CE.
Right. CE is kind of like, it's like, I didn't really want to have this job, but I have to.
Well, engineering is actually the first job I learned, and I enjoy it. Actually, I enjoy it better than playing security some days.
I actually learned security first.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't want to go because I read the wikis and everything on this game before I started playing, and then it said don't play security until you're really ready to play.
I didn't do that.
Yeah,
I was shitcurity at first, and I think part of shitcurity is, in fact, new players trying to learn, and they're like, well... Because one of the first things I learned, this was back when, Harm Baton did like 35 damage or something ridiculous. You Harm Baton one person once, everybody backs up.
Yeah, I bet.
Oh, yeah. So and then they'd start yelling security, but that gives you enough time to cuff somebody and pull them out. And you've only
Yeah.
done 35 damage, so you haven't killed them. But that's something I still use. It doesn't quite work as well anymore.
Yeah, but it'll still knock them to the ground, and they'll still take notice of that smack.
Yeah, that noise that you hear when someone's harm batoning.
Yeah, and I mean it's a good noise to know, and especially based off of space law, if you have a too large a crowd, you can go into it with lethals.
Right. But it was a very good and effective tool for backing people up for a few seconds while they went, wait, why is he harm batoning him? What's going on? Is he a traitor? That guy's got to be a traitor. Does he have any sword? Does he have a revolver? What does he have?
Yeah.
Um, Hattrick. We're going to talk about Hattrick because since I arrived, they have been the head of Perseus. Now I know Hattrick's going to hate me, and this might ruin every chance I ever have of getting into Perseus. But
We evaluate you based off of how you play, how you do, how you are as a community member as well. So,
but Hattrick's inactivity and sometimes complete unwillingness to respond to the effects of players, which I think this is something that we've all seen in certain circumstances. How is that a challenged second in command of Perseus?
well, the thing is, I have no personal issues with Hattrick. I've actually been working very closely with them in the last couple months, just trying to improve things and rebalance and help out a lot with Perseus. And from my he he has to prioritize his responses, and basically the reason a lot of people have outside lives other than SS13, and
Right.
he's one of them. And he's got actually a rather busy schedule.
No, I'm going to stop you right there. I am agreeing with you to a certain point. However, being the head of an organization that is so integral to our server, wouldn't that mean that you would have to set aside like an hour a day for it? Or would you think that, unless absolutely impossible, not setting aside time or anything? Because there was once a period of 6 months that went by before Hattrick even came on the forums.
Well, I can't comment on that point, and I can't comment on the things that I haven't seen. So that's I won't make a comment on anything that I haven't seen from him. But the one thing that I will say that he does very well is that he delegates, and he tells people to take charge of it. Some of the other commanders say, "Hey, Magoka, I need you to take care of this. Get this issue straightened out." And
Okay.
that's it's integral to an organization is to be able to delegate the responsibility down to your lower level. Because if one thing is if everything's a priority, then nothing is a priority.
Right. But here's my point. Um, as a second in command of Perseus, you're the only one that's active, and you had told me that Hattrick would be back in a few weeks. I don't know if that means that they're checking anything or doing anything with the server, and I get that that's fine, but um, one, I would like some statement from like if the head admin wasn't here for 3 weeks at a time, they wouldn't be the head admin anymore.
And the nature of the organization of Perseus is that some players can take some time off and don't have to play. He's actually pretty active in Skype and everything.
Right. Well, I'm just
Uh,
gonna say I've been playing for 4 years. I saw him online once for 5 minutes.
I have been playing for since February 2013. I've actually played a few, I mean, more than a few rounds with him. I've played with him when he's actually come on as commander before as well.
Uh,
I've played my fair share of games and
no,
matches and rounds with
I'm
him.
not bashing Hattrick. I'm sure being the Perseus commander is no fun. Um, I'm just pointing out that as a player perspective, Hattrick is like someone who appears to be someone who does not care, who's just has the position that no one will take away from him for some reason, and it doesn't do anything, and Perseus just kind of runs itself. Now, this may or may not be true. I have no idea, but this is the appearance to me, and from when I left, many of the other players.
Well, I'm sorry that's the appearance that you get, but Hattrick is involved day to day with running a Perseus and decisions. The commanders make recommendations. He makes the final decision.
Okay, that
And when, like I said, it's all about the delegation. Like I said before, everything's a priority, nothing's a priority. So he has to choose to prioritize his time. His actual day-to-day job takes quite a bit of his time.
as second in command, do you feel that you have do you and the other commanders feel that you all have the authority that you need, both IC and
Absolutely.
OOC?
Absolutely. Yeah, it's. I'll be perfectly honest. Hattrick's been nothing but enabling. The Perseus enforcers, they listen to us, and because we've got the experience, most of the sergeants and the commanders have been chosen amongst them. We talk to individuals and say, hey, this is the person that we're looking at putting forward for commander. What do you think?
Hold on, the Perseus sergeants?
Yeah, this is another. It's a meta rank that we've done. Like I told you about the squads before.
Yes.
So you have a commander and a sergeant per squad. A squad's about 6 or 7 folks.
Um, that, okay. I was unaware of that.
And this is a new thing. It's something we ran by, and we got Don Zombie to improve it, and Hattrick really likes the idea as well. And this has probably been a month, maybe 2 now that we've had this, and it's just something we haven't really broadcast. But the idea is that we have players who are robust, who have good experience in the game, and they can actually share that along with along to their younger or less experienced players.
Right. Um, that's actually something I like. Now here I'm gonna bring up the hive mind. Oh dear God, your metagaming ban.
Yeah, yeah, I gotcha. And the what other servers are called sanctioned server sanctioned metagame.
Well, one, I didn't particularly have a problem with it, and I still don't, because it does make sense. We have a lore. It's something that they would need. Apparently, they were not allowed to use it after they were dead, which,
Yeah, we're not able to do that. If you're dead, the you just say Perseus commander number 007 down, and you can say where your body's location is at, but you cannot. If you're sitting there dead, everything's red, and it says dead to the side of you. You can't continue to report everything you see around you. If you're a ghost, you can't report all of that.
what about when you're in critical?
When you're in critical, if you basically can report your location.
Okay. You can report
You,
your location and assailant, I assume?
yeah,
Okay, that's fair enough. I
yeah.
had
This is
heard
basically. Oh, go ahead.
from an extremely reliable source, a very senior admin within LLA, that currently you are only allowed to use Skype or text, but before you were able to use TeamSpeak.
Yeah, we actually had an issue with that when we first went to a TeamSpeak server. We did this, and then and it was a mistake. I'll be completely honest. It gave us complete and utter overpower against folks because instead of even using text or Skype, uh, to talk, we don't. First off, when we use Skype, we only use the text-based portion of it. We don't never actually get on and actually talk through a round.
All right. That's fine. Okay, I was wondering if TeamSpeak was something that you guys were doing for a very long time, because...
No, it was about a month, maybe a month
Okay.
and a half,
Okay.
and it was. We realized we actually had a very good discussion about it, and Hattrick made the decision to nix it, and it was just gone.
All right. That's...
We only have the Perseus channels in our TeamSpeak is just in case we need to do a little meeting, and because the commanders or the Perseus
Or you guys
enforcers
just want to sit around and bullshit
yeah,
to each
yeah,
other?
yeah, and talk shit and talk about stuff that we don't want to talk about in front of regular players.
Fair enough. That's always completely acceptable. I'm just gonna Perseus channel, commander chat. I assume all the Perseus channels are locked.
Yeah, you can only get them in there if you have a Perseus flag on your uh,
Thing.
profile here.
That's fine.
Actually, I run the TeamSpeak, so I make sure people are either in or out or in the correct areas.
All right. That's fine. That's fine. I didn't know you ran TeamSpeak, but
Yeah.
just a couple more things. I'm sure you're busy tonight, or probably
No,
not.
I got a little bit of time.
Um, how hard is it to actually enter into Perseus?
Well, the days of going 6 months and not hearing anything on your application are gone. That was, that's something that's happened before.
I'm not gonna lie, I was in that boat, which might be why I'm angry at Hattrick.
Yeah, and that's I'll be honest, that's understandable to me. I was really mad about my application when it took me. I applied in September and I got accepted New Year of or Christmas Eve, not Christmas Eve, rather New Year's Eve of 2013.
I think it was there was another commander, Mags, who I think it took like over a year and a half or something. I'm not looking
Yeah,
here at the thing, but it was something.
yeah. Trust me, I know what you're talking about, and I was angry at first, and then I understood. I asked about it, why, and everything,
That was
and sometimes.
actually that was the time that Hattrick went 6 months without even looking at the applications.
And my guess, and I don't know the full stories, but I assume it was a real life issue that happened in that time frame.
That's fine, good. I'm not worried about real life issues. But as I think a related question, do you actually have the authority to approve a
Do
Perseus?
I?
Yes, do you?
No. I don't have the authority to approve somebody coming in. I make recommendations, and Hattrick makes the final decision. We all make recommendations based off of what we see of a candidate. So if we, well, there'll be times in Skype we'll say, hey, uh, player one is going to be on. So let's take a look and see how they're doing. Maybe somebody go and get a lawyer and antagonize them, see how well they deal with that. Give them a couple little tests or talk to them either Skype or via the forums.
That's very. I never knew that. I thought it was based upon only performance ICly and upon the application. That is information I did not know.
Yeah, no, it's not all IC stuff. It's not all this. We want to see
How you react.
yeah, how you react because how you react as a security officer is pretty important. But let's say how you react as an assistant. Are you going to represent us in a good light?
Right. Do we want the guy who's a great sec officer, but every time they're assistant, they run havoc through the station? Kind of.
Sometimes, yeah. Sometimes it's pretty entertaining, but sometimes it's not the right fit.
Especially when it's every single round. Like Saint Vicious, I like Saint Vicious out of character. Icily, because I play as security, I despise him.
Oh yeah, and
Every
I
time
was
I see him on the AI, I'm like, he's in the vault, lock him down.
yeah. No, I do the same thing with some other our players. I'm a I'm pretty by the book when I play. You and I probably would get along really well on security, or if I was your AI.
What's your IC name?
Lee Petersman.
Lee Petersman. Do you know what mine is?
Not off the top of my head, I'll be honest.
Jonah Greenwood.
I don't think I've ever had an issue with you.
No, I've always been. There have at times as security, I will certainly take liberties with my position as HOS when needed. Like the other day, I had to kill Saint Vicious specifically because he had attacked a SEC officer. He kept doing this weird smoke thing, which I still can't figure out how he was able
It's
to
a
do.
chaplain. It's a new thing with chaplain.
I'm like, how is?
Yeah, I hate it too.
I'm like, how is he doing this? Like desperate. I had him naked, blindfolded, and gagged, trying to stop it from happening because it's so annoying, and he kept doing it even while in perma. And he ended up escaping. I don't know how. And like he had attacked an officer, stolen his ID, went and grabbed sec gear, and I'm like, okay, he's wearing their ID. He's gonna come into security, attack the sec officers, try and loot the armory. Because I know where he's gonna get it from. I know exactly what he's going to do because he's predictable. That's his weakness, though. That's what a lot of these very skilled players have as their weakness. They're so predictable. But once he escaped from Perma, I executed him as the HOS without captain approval. Maybe a little bad on my part, but you know.
If I was the HOS in that situation, I would have first off put on internals. That stops
Oh,
the smoke thing.
that's what I had to do. I had actually ordered that no officers are allowed to wear gas masks because he goes to the what you call it, the The thing right next to the security sector, right next to arrivals.
Yeah,
I don't remember what it's called.
the rivals checkpoint.
Yep. But what he, uh, but I executed him. I probably could have summarily, but I put him in perma first. He got out. Then I grabbed him, drug him up there, executed him.
Yeah, I probably would have checked with the captain or the acting captain at that point in
I
time
didn't
and say,
even, I didn't even know if there was one, to be
yeah,
honest.
you may have been justified for it. Like I said, I I probably would have checked and made the determination, and then I probably would have buckle cuffed him in his bed.
Oh, that's what I always do when I perma someone.
Yeah,
Just like, here you go, you're in perma, buddy. Sorry, I'm not coming in there with you. You can have a pair of handcuffs. I don't care.
yeah, or actually locked him down in a straight jacket.
Yeah. One other thing, or a few more questions maybe. How badly does the community attempt to break into the Mycena or attack Perseus or outrobust Perseus?
You know, it depends on how active we've been.
If you've been active?
Yeah, if how active we've been. Like we've had a full blown we've had a full blown raid by some people who are traders, and then we've had a full blown raid by folks who were non-tags, and they'd followed one of the other players into a the teleporter stuff, and they used a hand teleporter to jump on the Mycenae.
Oh, there's an easy way to break onto the Mycena.
Oh yeah,
The
it's easy.
AI.
Yeah. What?
The AI.
You can't unless you install a camera.
A board can go over there.
Yeah, but you know, I mean, you do what you're gonna do. We'll still now. It's weapons free if you are attempting to board the Mycenae and not authorized.
Yeah,
Yeah,
as would be.
your ass is stuck. We had you'll get hemmed up there, and you'll have like four. We I hate having people on the Mycenae as prisoners. That's one of my things. If I have the ability, I want them back on their the station.
See, as the HOS, I'm the exact opposite. I want them on the Messina because I know they're going to break the back window in Perma, and the AI is going to let them out.
Oh yeah, you're probably right. But like, I just when I was I've been on the receiving end when I was just a regular player. A little bit of wanton jailing, in my opinion, and I don't like to have people on the Mycenae if I can help it.
Right, especially when you got like two people per cell.
Yeah, yeah, that actually is a problem, especially when they start to fight to try to break out. They'll start fights with each other, and I will throw flashbangs and have to straitjacket them.
Oh, I wouldn't even do any of that. I'd just let them fight.
Yeah, but we can't. We don't, it's not good to let them die on the Mycenae. People get annoyed by that really bad.
Yeah, well, as
They're
you,
like, "Why didn't Perseus stop the fight?"
well, that's your own fault.
Like, well, you can't just say that because people are going to go ahead and start attacking.
True. Um, what? How would you figure? Would you like your organization to have better gear?
I think that the stuff that like that's a tricky question. I've actually pushed for some nerfing to happen. That
Well,
has
I don't necessarily mean nerfing or buffing. I mean just more specialized gear or maybe some extra gear, like the ion rifle, let's say. That can't hurt people, at least I don't think.
yeah, but the ion for me, it would be good for dealing with Borgs. But if you give us every tool in the book, then it starts to not. It starts to just be soul crushing if you're an antag against us.
Well, my thought has always been Perseus was designed to be overpowered. It was designed to stop the murder boning and the antags running around the station going, "Ha ha, I've killed everybody and there's no one that can do." Oh god. Four men with the best gear in the game that are extremely veteran players have just showed up. I shouldn't do that again.
Yeah, or you should be a little bit quieter about it.
Yeah.
And you know, I agree in some aspects with that. Like, I really, you know, I hate murder boners when they just destroy a station because you know the people who really truly suffer is the server because that kills a server pop faster than anything else.
Right. Being a veteran security officer, though, can really stem that very quickly. But
Mhm.
um, on to another question that I've seen a lot of in the past. Does Perseus take away from regular security?
I'll be honest. There's the stigma is kind of true. Once you get, because what happens is during the application process, the applicant, the candidate, they actually start to play security almost 24/7,
I would agree with that.
and they get really good at security, and they do exactly what they need to do to get into Perseus, and then they hardly play security afterwards, and then you got these little cycles in which you have really bad security after a Perseus hire.
Mm,
Uh, I I've challenged our guys and so has Hadrick to play more security. When when the server pop is low, go ahead and play some security and continue to keep your skills up because you know
Perseus makes them kind of get rusty.
it does. Because for instance, processing prisoners is different on the Mycenae.
Right. Security, you gotta remember times, which I forgot in space law now, and I'm so used to remembering it so well that I'm like, this crime, this many minutes. This crime, this many minutes. You did this, you go to perma. You did that, I can execute you on the spot. I used
Yeah,
to have them tricks where, you did this, but now it seems like the server's kind of getting away from allowing the security to use them tricks, which I feel hand ties them.
yeah, you could.
Um, but wouldn't putting encouraging Perseus to play a security increase the problem for them of inactivity?
Yes and no. Uh, Part of it, like I said, is to drive the server population back up, is to play as regular crew, and to actually play as crew that people recognize. Hey, because I'll be honest, anybody who says they don't, because there's different definitions of metagaming, and now that I know you're Jonah Greenwood, I know I probably can trust you for the most part.
Right.
So if somebody looks at Lee Petersman and they're like, "Man, Lee Petersman is awesome to play with," and they realize, "Hey, Lee Petersman is a security officer this round, but next round he's actually Perseus 007," there's going to be like, "Well, this guy's actually, he's a good security officer, and he's Perseus. He's looking out for me." Once we drive that server population up by actually adding players to the game, and it gets to like 20, 30, somewhere right there, we can have a really active Perseus presence on there. Then we can actually start to really increase the security uh, issue right there as well.
All right.
Does that make sense?
Yes. It, but also it does, in fact, contribute to their inactivity.
It does. You're right,
I,
and
and
it is what it is.
and this has been a very long-lasting problem, and I want to know if you guys have any plans to fix this problem, because as you've said, you've only have 20 people, which you encourage to play other roles very heavily, and that's all fine and good. However, it gets you in this weird situation. We have Perseus if we don't have high pop rounds that aren't playing Perseus, and if they only come on when there's a decent population, well,
Well, no, and we've got plans. Is part of the thing that we want to do is actually we try to get more Perseus just to sit there and monitor, provide advice or overwatch for the security. And I know it sucks when somebody's just sitting there watching the cameras and say they don't feel comfortable boarding, and that's probably going to be your next thing is like, oh, that Perseus wouldn't board because there's not enough support. That being said, there's some plans in the works that I don't think I'm at liberty to currently discuss. They're just concepts at this stage to actually increase some interoperability between the server and chat programs.
um, so basically they're programs to say, you can basically send a message to the Perseus channel now.
Or maybe to your admin help, stuff like that. And that's stuff that's way far out there that we got to figure out how to exactly do that correctly and implement it right.
Because I always thought that would be a good idea. That I think I'm the one who actually suggested that a long, long time ago.
Maybe your suggestion trickled all the way back up. I'm not sure,
Oh, believe
but
me.
I don't have any part of that process of decision making. That's the admin team and seeing where we can go with that. Hey, I'm gonna step away from the microphone for like 2 minutes. I will be right back. Okay.
All right. Alright, so while he's gone, we'll sit here and say how much Perseus sucks. No, we're not. They're going to check at that. I'm just going to check to make sure I'm still recording, and yes, I am. Um, let's see. 0 bytes so far. Okay. Yeah, I forgot. I can't check until I've actually hit the finish record button. Stuff I can't show you. Now this is just this stuff. Let me show you an example of some Perseus applications. That's how I got the interview. What's this? That's the central index. I can't find it anymore. Let's go back to the Liberty Station. Applications. Here we go.
Alright, I'm back.
I was just showing people examples of Perseus applications.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, this is what you would want it to kind of look like. So
Yeah, I would recommend. This is what I always tell applicants is that they need to look at the previous successful ones and see how they did theirs.
I see. I think I've only got 2 more questions for you, Pete, and then you're free to go. One, how hard is it to actually get into Perseus?
Depends on what your level of dedication and skill is. For instance, we can take a look at some of the applications. Let's look at Wolfskin because that one was closed pretty quick.
Look at who?
Wolfskin, the Wolfskin application should be started October 4th and closed pretty quickly after 11 release.
I found it. Wolfskin.
So you get a lot of these ones that are not very well done. And this one actually looks like a troll post, to be honest. So this is actually not a great one to look at, but you get a lot of ones that actually resemble this.
That are real.
Yeah.
There was an example a long time ago, what not to do in one.
Yeah, I don't remember where that one went.
Yep.
But let's say, there's some players who have, I would say, done very well.
I'm sorry about whoever you are, cyborgs. However, I'm going to use you as an example. This is one that was closed.
Yeah.
It's not easy. I know I've applied, and I've always been very good and helpful to the server.
Mm-hmm. I haven't actually looked at your application. Was it on the old form or this form?
This one.
Okay, so I'll have to take a look at it.
But, so
basically what we're looking for, and this is just the way you present yourself on the forums and the way you present yourself in the game, based off your, honestly, sometimes it's punctuation and grammar.
that's a big reason why I got denied.
Yeah.
Patrick is a grammar Nazi.
Yeah. Yeah, he is.
No, just like, well, no, it's just, yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, part of it is just think about this. Like, let's say you have a group of whitelisted folks, and you want them to represent the best of what you've got available on the server, or the folks who are interested in being the, I guess, for lack of a better term, lawful good.
Right.
So you want their interactions with everybody to be precise and professional. And I know it's probably taking this a little too seriously, but when you write down here, let's look, looking at Cyborg's application, and some of the things aren't punctuated. It's very hard to read.
Do you just look at grammar in the application?
No, I look at it everywhere. The way they communicate in game, the way they communicate over OOC. If I talk to them in TeamSpeak,
All right.
that's things that I consider is because if they don't present themselves in a good manner, they're not going to present themselves in a good manner as a Perseus.
All right. That's...
Now, whether it's hard or not to get in, It just takes it takes dedication and it takes the some maturity to actually get in. Sometimes maybe you got, I don't know, like I said, on your application, if it was just the grammar Nazi thing, it was, hey, I don't like this application, try again in 3 months. I think
Right.
that's probably what happened with yours.
Uh, no, my the grammar in my application was stellar because I had it proofread. Um, however, it was grammar other places. I've worked on it quite a bit. I've always haven't been the best at spelling or grammar or
I
things like.
gotcha.
I mean, it's just never something I've cared about that much. Um, but one more last question for you, Pistol Pete. Would you like the coders to code you a new special fun gear?
Depends on what we would define as a a need. I don't want to because, like I said, we've got about 26 folks who are currently active technically, and we have upwards of 100 players overall or more. And I honestly, I personally believe that most of the attention should be given to them.
Mm, yes and
You know,
no.
it's coming up with new code to make something that's better for the game for them. Now, for anything that I would like to have, I mean, we've got everything that we need, in my opinion.
Right, but there's always like the concussion rifle that was there a long, long time ago. Do you remember that?
Yeah, I do, and you know what? To be perfectly honest, I have exactly what I want for it. I want tear gas, and flashbang grenade launchers.
That would be fun. However, to the concussive rifle was something I really liked, but it only worked so long as no one actually figured out what it did.
Oh,
Do you remember what it did?
no, I have no idea.
It did nothing.
Really?
It was just a really big gun that filled chat up with Perseus Security 111 fires a concussive rifle. Boom! And it like filled up the chat log with boom, and everybody ran away.
That's hilarious. I had no idea about that.
Yeah, that thing was so funny.
No, that sounds like, well, it sounds like a disabled honk
No,
that,
it didn't actually disable anyone.
Hey, have you had an opportunity to take a look at the disablers in security now?
The No, I haven't.
So get to QM the next time you get an opportunity. Have them order disablers, a crate of them. It's a fatigue weapon. It will fatigue them and knock them to the ground,
Huh.
and it
Um.
doesn't do any damage.
However, I think we finished the interview, and I'm gonna stop the recording now. Do you want to say goodbye?
Oh yeah. Goodbye, y'all. Have a good one. I hope this has been informative for you.
This has been Snow. I've been interviewing the second in command for the Perseus security enforcers on Liberty Station, and I'll see you next time I make a video. Bye.